Are you one of the millions who watched this happen?
Mary, you've gone through a hideous time. But now you must remember your son. He needs you very much.
I know. The truth is, I don't think I'm going to be a very good mother.
Why not?
Because somehow, with Matthew's death, all the softness that he found in me seems to have dried up and drained away.
Downton Abbey is back. WGBH's beloved masterpiece series returned for its 4th season, and Lord Grantham's grip is as strong as ever. I'm joined now by WGBH's arts editor, Jared Bowen, and you recently sat down with some of the stars of Downton.
I did. Over the past few years, I think I've spoken with at least half of the upstairs and downstairs staff. They're great people, so down to earth, and I think they're probably as bewildered by the success, in some regard, of the show as anybody.
So the clip we just saw, that was Mary, and her husband, Matthew Crowley, was killed off last season. That's the actor played Dan Stevens. He's kind of a big star, big, handsome guy. How did you think that they went on without him? Well,
of course, this has been the big question over the last 11 months since we saw him die tragically in the final moments of the last season is how would the show go on? And what we find here, in at least the very first episode, is really a study in grief and what happens to Lady Mary. But also, as I talked to the cast, it was a study in grief for them as well. I spoke to Alan Leach, who plays Branson. Of course, if you watch the show, you know he's the chauffeur turned member of the family. And he said even off screen, it was a loss for them as well. And he talked about how Michelle Dockery, who plays Lady Mary, sort of set the tone for that and how they felt on the set.
As Michelle said, she said, you know, what an adventure, and we started this adventure together, and we're not going to end it together. And it was the same with Dan. You did feel that there were two people who were so integral to the show missing. But what it also gives, and what we realised was, it gives the show such drama.
And, of course, his wife was the one who died in childbirth. See, I do watch, and I watched last night, too.
Yeah, well, and Julian Fellowes has said it's very hard to write happy. So Dan Stevens did want to leave the show, but it sort of gave them this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is the 4th season. You've seen most of this, so we won't do any spoilers or anything like that. But does it hold up as well as the other seasons?
I actually think, in large measure, because Julian Fellow writes, this is his creation, he's written every word himself, and the cast adheres to that. Sometimes they put in little requests. But because he has complete control of the show, I think it remains as strong. In fact, there were a couple, the second season I thought was a little bit weak, but this season I think is as strong as the very first season. There are many reasons for that. I think that people are still gravitate toward this old English style as our mores and social structure changes rapidly. I mean, we'd like to see something that still has some sort of structure. Of course, people love the stories, the drama, the soapiness, the costumes, everything that's beautiful about it. But I also talked to LESLEY, NICOL, who plays Mrs. Patmore. She's almost unrecognizable. Yeah. She's the cook. Yeah. And she said they have a great camaraderie that you hardly ever feel as a group of actors. And she told me a little bit more about that.
It's a mixture, actually, of very, very nice people, easy, friendly, hard-working. We share a commitment and a passion to make this show as good as we can. I mean, there's nobody turning up kind of going, that's not how it is. People are very proud and they love the job.
You're right, I would not have recognized her, but she's one of the characters I really look forward to, her scenes.
And she's great. She told me that she's one of the vocal ones. She's hilarious in person, even though she told me she doesn't cook, which is kind of funny. Yeah. She lets her husband do all the cooking, but she said she did put in a couple of requests to Julian Fellowes. One, that he give her a boyfriend, and now she's got a request in that she wants a dog.
A boyfriend? Well, is it one of the other guys in the...
Well, this was something that happened a couple seasons ago, so she got a boyfriend for a couple seasons. Her other major request is to have a scene with Maggie Smith now, but that means she has to go upstairs, and she's been told in those times the cook would never be seen upstairs.
So last night, and I did watch it, but it felt a little bit slower, I thought. Maybe it was 2 hours, but they do a lot of 2-hour episodes.
Well, I think that's largely because Julian Fellowes knew that he had to calibrate this audience. I mean, this is a couple that you spent 3 years, Dan Stevens and Michelle Dockery's character, Lady Mary, you spent 3 years wanting them to have this moment where they get married and they finally have this son, and we lost him. So he had to help us come to terms.
All right. Well, Jared, thank you for that.